The Royal Irish Rifles, an infantry regiment of the British Army, played a significant and often tragic role during World War I. Formed in 1881, the regiment primarily recruited soldiers from Belfast and the counties of Antrim, Down, and Louth in Ireland, which was still part of the United Kingdom at the time. At the outbreak of war in 1914, the regiment consisted of 2 regular battalions, the 1st and the 2nd, alongside additional reserve units. The war saw the regiment grow significantly as new service battalions were raised to meet the demand for troops. When war was declared, the 2nd Battalion was among the first units of the British Expeditionary Force to arrive in France. They were immediately thrust into the early clashes of the war, including the Battle of Mons and the grueling retreat from Mons, where the professionalism of the regiment was tested against the well-trained German army. The 1st Battalion, stationed in Aden when hostilities began, was swiftly recalled to Europe, joining the Western Front in November 1914. Over the next 4 years, the regiment would endure the full horrors of trench warfare, participating in many of the bloodiest battles of the conflict. The Royal Irish Rifles were heavily involved in the Second Battle of Ypres in 1915, where they faced the first large-scale use of poison gas by German forces, suffering severe casualties but holding their positions with remarkable tenacity. The regiment's most famous contribution came during the Battle of the Somme in 1916. On the first day of the offensive, July 1, battalions from the regiment fought as part of the 36th Ulster Division. This division, composed largely of Protestant Unionists, achieved stunning initial success, capturing key German positions in Thiepval Wood. However, they were isolated by counterattacks, and their gains could not be consolidated. The day ended with catastrophic losses, but the bravery of the soldiers earned widespread recognition, particularly from commanders who praised their courage under impossible conditions. By 1917, the regiment was deeply embroiled in the Third Battle of Ypres, also known as Passchendaele, where they endured appalling conditions in waterlogged trenches. Despite the near-continuous artillery bombardments and the physical and mental toll of the campaign, the regiment continued to fight with distinction. Beyond the Western Front, other battalions of the Royal Irish Rifles were deployed to distant theatres. The 6th Battalion took part in the ill-fated Gallipoli campaign, where they fought in the harsh environment of the Dardanelles before being redeployed to the Salonika front in Greece. Other units were involved in the defense of the Suez Canal and later in operations in Palestine. The regiment's contributions during the war were not limited to the battlefield. It also reflected Ireland's political complexities. The 36th Ulster Division, to which many Royal Irish Rifles battalions belonged, was predominantly Protestant and Unionist, while the 16th Irish Division, which also included soldiers from the regiment, drew many of its men from Catholic nationalist backgrounds. Despite the political and religious divisions back home, these men fought side by side, united by their shared experiences of war. By the end of the conflict, the Royal Irish Rifles had suffered over 11,000 casualties, a grim testament to the scale of their sacrifice. Several members of the regiment were awarded the Victoria Cross, the highest military honor for bravery. Their contributions are remembered in memorials like the Ulster Tower at Thiepval, which commemorates the sacrifices of the 36th Ulster Division and the men of the Royal Irish Rifles. After the war, the regiment underwent significant changes, reflecting the shifting political landscape of Ireland. In 1921, following the partition of Ireland, the Royal Irish Rifles was renamed the Royal Ulster Rifles, emphasizing its predominantly Northern Irish identity. Despite the sorrow and loss endured by its soldiers and their families, the regiment left an enduring legacy of courage and service during one of the darkest chapters in human history.